Blackmagic Design just announced the public beta for DaVinci Resolve 21, and in this video, we're going to go through some of my favorite new features, both big and small. This video is brought to you by Audiio, more on them a little bit later. This new release is available to download right now from the Blackmagic Design website. But before you jump in, I really do have to stress that this is a public beta. There will very likely be bugs and crashes. We never install something like this on our main machines here at the office until it's officially out of beta, because we don't have time to deal with those kinds of issues. And even then, we usually wait until we're done with any major projects, because you can't roll back if you start having issues, and we really don't want to lose any work. Alright, let's start looking at the new features. One of the biggest headlines is that they've added a brand new page for editing photos. For those of you still trying to ditch Adobe, but you don't have a good Lightroom alternative, this might grab your attention. It works in a similar way, where you import your images and then add them to an album, and then you navigate through the pictures using the thumbnails along the bottom of the page. You've got options for things like tagging and star ratings, and then you can filter the images over here based on what you added. Then you can make changes to camera raw settings, basic color and transform settings, and then if you add an image to the timeline, it will already have all those changes applied. And of course, you have all the grading tools and effects in DaVinci Resolve available to use as well. And if you shoot stills with a Sony or Canon camera, they even let you shoot tethered. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, it essentially means you plug your camera into a computer so your photos show up on the big screen the moment you take them. This helps you see every detail clearly and make quick fixes while you're still shooting instead of just trying to look at that tiny monitor on the back of the camera. Now, as this is an entire new page, that's going to deserve a video all of its own to go into detail, so I'll add that to my list. And next up, there's quite a few AI tools that have been added, and some I'll definitely use more than others. One of the most important ones to me is the AI IntelliSearch. Once you run it, you can search your footage for things like objects, locations, or faces. One really handy part is you can set it to show the whole clip or just the segment that the thing you're searching for shows up in. Another massive one is AI Slate ID, where it will read the information on your slate and then add it as metadata to your clips automatically. That's going to be especially helpful for me for things like the spellings of people's names for all of the interviews that I've got to edit. I'm looking forward to see how well it deals with some of the terrible handwriting I've had to deal with. They've added an AI speech generator. If you've used tools like 11 Labs or the AI audio features in Artlist, you'll be familiar with how this works. You enter in some text, pick one of the supplied voices or link to a sample recording of the voice you want to use, and hit generate.
This is the true story of their historic climb into an active volcano in Antarctica.
You can play around with settings like speed and pitch, and that does help it sound a little less robotic. Now, amazingly, if you're creating a custom voice, they only want a sample file that's 10 to 20 seconds long, and it works really quickly. Right now, I'm working on a video for one of our clients, and one of the people that was interviewed called something by the wrong name on set, and nobody noticed it on the day. So I used the voice convert tool that they introduced last year to fix it. I made a 20-minute long sample of the person speaking from that interview, and then it took a few hours to generate the voice model before I could even use it. Now, this would have saved me a ton of time. Now, I will say, and I brought this up last year when Voice Convert was released, but please, please, please get permission from whoever you're planning to use as a sample. The fact that you now only need a few seconds of someone's voice to do this means it's even more likely that some people are going to abuse it and steal the voice or use it for something nefarious. So please don't be that person. That person sucks. Now, with that said, once you have a newly created voiceover, you'll probably want some great music to play underneath it. And so this is a great time to mention the sponsor of this video, Audiio. If you sign up for a pro plan, you'll get unlimited access to thousands of high-quality curated songs from artists and composers, and they're adding new songs to the catalog every week. You can download individual instrument stems for every song, which lets you build a fully customized track. They even have more than 300,000 sound effects to choose from. Audiio Pro gets you a single license that covers you for practically everything. YouTube monetization, social media, podcasts, weddings, and even commercial work for clients under 100 employees. Also, any track you download during your subscription is licensed to that project forever, even if you cancel your plan later. There are even super powerful AI tools to help you find the perfect track. You can use Hans AI search and just describe what you need in natural language, and Hans will do the searching for you. They also have something called Link Match. If you have a particular song you want to use but you don't have permission, paste a link to it from Spotify or YouTube, and the tool finds similar tracks in the audio library. Audiio have been kind enough to hook me up with a big discount for all of you. Just head to audio.com/ThomLyons and enter coupon code ThomLyons for 70% off your first year of Audiio Pro, which includes unlimited music, sound effects, stems, and AI search tools. And thanks again to Audiio for sponsoring this video. Now back to all the new tools. They've added a couple of new AI effects that will hopefully help to rescue your footage. One is called AI Ultra Sharpen, and that can help sharpen up something that might be a bit out of focus. And the other is AI Motion Deblur, which, as the name suggests, helps you remove motion blur from the shot. Now, neither of these tools will perform absolute miracles. If your shot is really bad, there is only so much a computer can do. But especially for someone like me, who works with an awful lot of documentary footage, I'm hoping it's going to make the difference with the shots that I would normally throw away because it's just ever so slightly off. Now, if you want to add some blurriness, you might want to try out some AI Cine Focus. This lets you take a shot where everything is in focus and add some pretty realistic depth of field after the fact. You can even keyframe the effect to add in a rack focus to your shot. There are a few new AI retouching tools as well. One's going to come in really handy, and as for the others, I am not so sure that I'll ever use them, but let's take a look. There's an AI blemish removal tool that will come in handy for cleaning up things like acne or just sort of general redness. But then they also have the AI face age transformer, where you set the person's age, and then you drag the offset slider to make them look older or younger. And even weirder is the AI face reshaper, which lets you literally change the size and shape of features on a person's face. Now, I'm not really sure how I feel about these tools. They could certainly have their uses if you were doing something like a flashback scene in a movie, but if a client came to me and then asked me to make an actor's nose smaller because they just think it's too big, I don't think I could bring myself to do it. Now, there are a lot of things I would consider quality of life improvements that I want to touch on. They might not grab the headlines, but they are going to make my job easier, so I am all for it. The first is improvements to the keyframe and curves panels. You can adjust multiple keyframes at once, but the big one is you can finally adjust keyframes on Fusion effects directly on the edit page. Sort of. It does seem like not all Fusion keyframes work in this initial release. Now, this might be a bug or just some kind of limitation, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. It is a long-awaited addition though. If I made a preset in Fusion and I want to use it in the edit page, the whole point of the preset is that I don't want to have to jump to Fusion if I want to tweak something. Now, it's not perfect, but it is a step in the right direction. The text tool's got some welcome updates. You can preview what a font looks like when you're scrolling through the list, rather than having to select it each time. There's also a new font browser to look at your fonts, either all of them or just the ones you marked as a favorite. And they've added spell check. Now, for someone like me that's a little bit orthographically challenged, that's going to be a lifesaver. That said, it doesn't look like it exists for captions, which would be really nice. Another new feature I love involves Magic Mask. I've lost count of how many times I've opened up a job and I've had to rerun the Magic Mask tracking for a shot because the cache is just gone. There's now an option to render in place, so it generates a new piece of media with that mask information. Especially for a company like ours where we share a lot of projects, this is going to save us a ton of time. Over on the Fusion page, they've made some improvements to the macro editor to make it easier to organize yourself. If you've used it in the past, you know how much of a pain it was, so this is a really nice update. With that said, I would probably still use something like Macro Lab by Matt McCall or Macro Machine by Patrick Sterling because they both got way more functionality. But if you don't want to leave Fusion, this is definitely a better experience than it was in the past. The Multi-Inspector button lets you select several nodes and edit properties that are shared across them. So that means no more selecting nodes one at a time to make the same change on each. Another big addition to Fusion is that they acquired and natively integrated the Crocodile toolset library. So now there are dozens and dozens of new effects and tools that I'm going to have to learn how to use. They did post a video showing some examples of the tools in action, and it looks really cool. Over on the Fairlight page, they added the ability to group your tracks into folders. If you've got a ton of tracks on your timeline, this is going to be a great feature for keeping yourself organized and just kind of getting rid of some visual clutter while you try and concentrate on one part of your mix. Over in the media pool, they added the ability to create tabs as shortcuts to specific bins. If you spend a lot of time organizing your project, navigating between all the bins can be a bit of a time suck. So creating shortcuts like this will help speed up your navigation. Speaking of speeding things up, there are several tasks you can now have running in the background. You can do your rendering in the background, as well as audio transcriptions and proxy generation, so no more staring at a progress bar waiting for it all to finish. And they finally added a search bar so you can figure out what submenu that one setting lives in without having to open them all up one by one. And I swear I'm only scratching the surface. They have released a 150-page guide going through all the new additions, which you'll get when you download the program. And remember, this is still in public beta, so be careful before you start using it, because there's likely going to be all sorts of bugs and weird little issues, so I wouldn't commit to using it on anything important like client work. Now, I'm going to head down to Las Vegas for the NAB conference this weekend to chat with some of my fellow trainers and a bunch of the Blackmagic folks. So if you've got any questions about all of these new features, make sure you drop them in the comments down below, and I'm going to ask around and I'll try and get you an answer. While you're down there, please take a second to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on all sorts of Resolve tips and tricks like these. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.